What's up, guys? You're listening to another episode of Selling on Amazon with Andy Isom. Guys, I'm stoked to bring this episode to you guys today. I'm here with my friends Nick, Jake, and Taylor from the team over at Citrusy Boutique. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having us.
Excited to be here.
I mentioned this on my Instagram stories, and I think in some of my Instagram reels that I posted about Amazon Accelerate, but these guys were kind enough to invite me to come to the conference with them this year. I was talking a lot about maybe going, maybe not. And I don't know, it got kind of close and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna go, but they were like, we're going, you should come. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll go. And it was awesome. It was so much fun. It was obviously so much fun to finally meet you guys in person. The last episode we actually did an episode. Taylor, I don't remember if you were on this episode or not, but I know Nick and
I don't
Jake.
think so.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, episode 204. That was almost 2 years ago that we recorded that episode, which seems crazy. But yeah, it was super fun again to meet you guys and, obviously attend the conference and learn a lot. So that's kind of what we wanted to do today is take a chance to kind of share just all of our different perspectives from the conference with you guys, so you could maybe decide for yourselves, next year if you want to attend in person. And if you're watching video, I know if you guys are listening to the audio podcast, you can't see, but if you're watching video, we're rocking our Amazon Accelerate t-shirts here. I got my little badge on.
Oh yeah.
Taylor's
We
got her
all
hoodie
all
on.
the swag.
But guys, for those who maybe didn't listen to episode 204, 2 years ago, give us a quick intro kind of about yourselves and kind of what your thing is with Amazon.
Yeah, so we started Citrusy Boutique, our business, back in 2020. So we kind of call it our COVID baby. But we sell primarily accessory products. So I'm repping right here one of our hot products right now, the vintage viral trucker hat. We sell bags, belts, belt bags, dog products like pet carriers, hands-free dog leash, etc. So all the things. And I have a couple products right here if you're watching on video, some of our hats that we sell. So super fun. I always am repping them. I had to even bring them along to the conference and just kind of show everyone because it's so fun to see the products. I know it's a little blurred out, but yeah, those are just a few things that we sell. But yeah, we're on Amazon, and that's kind of how we met Andy.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'll go second. That was Taylor too. And this is Nick as well, on the Citrusy team. And I'm sitting in Minnesota. So excited to chat today. And it was really fun meeting Andy in person. We said we've kind of been internet friends and we feel like we've known each other, but it was really a blast to hey, we finally met in person. We got along right away and it was a fun week. And then we have two more people on the team. I'll let Jake introduce them.
Yeah, I've got myself, Jake, and my wife, Courtney. She is currently with our 1-year-old. So on mom duty, very much appreciate her and all she does. But we're based in Austin. It's been great. Nick and I are brothers. We get a lot of opportunity to connect with each other and stay close through both personal and business.
I think your guys' team is so cool because it relates so closely to our team at Remy and Rue. Me and my wife, Taylor, and then our friends and business partners, Cameron and Ashley, kind of in that same stage of life as you guys, a 4-person team, kind of grown our businesses to maybe we could say somewhat similar level of success, honestly, right? As far as number of products, revenue, scale, that kind of stuff. So I feel like we have a lot going on as far as kind of how we're both operating our respective brands and businesses. And I know that we've learned a lot from each other over the years, right? Staying connected and sharing insights and whatnot. So again, it was fun to connect in person at Amazon Accelerate. For people who have never heard of this, it's relatively new. I think they announced at the show, it's only been going for maybe 5 years. But Nick, maybe can you give us just an overview of what this conference is and maybe who it's for?
Totally. Yeah. So Amazon Accelerate is a conference hosted by Amazon, primarily for sellers. So this year there was 4,000 sellers that showed up in Seattle. So it's a couple blocks from where Amazon is headquartered. We got to drive by and see that as well. But it's a kind of a 3-day event of activities, a lot of networking, meeting with different vendors, listening to Amazon employees, keynote speakers, all kind of to support sellers. So they talk about what new tools are coming out, it's a space to mingle, to meet other sellers. It was a lot of fun, a lot of very motivating for sure. And they do it once a year. So typically every September, book your calendars and head on out to Seattle.
So that first day they had, if I remember, they didn't really do many classes or speakers, but that first day was mainly walking that main floor, right? With all the different vendors that were there. There were booths for Amazon, different Amazon departments like AWD and shipping and FBA. So if you had questions about specific departments within Amazon, Seller Central or whatever, you could go and talk to those Amazon representatives. And then there was their third-party vendors. So there was like Jungle Scout, a bunch of ad agencies, PickFu, other companies like that. I'm curious. I know that we all kind of took time walking the floor. We kind of all split up, and did our own thing a little bit there and talked to some of the different vendors. I'm curious to hear from your guys' perspective, maybe one vendor that really stood out to you, whether it's Amazon or not, either one, but one booth or vendor that stood out to you that you maybe had a really good conversation with. Maybe Jake, if you have one, you could start us off.
Sure. Don't want to be a parent who's picking their favorite child, because we have a lot of vendors there that we use. So generically, it's just great to meet people who I've been working with for years and know their name, but now I actually have a face to put behind it. But if I did have to pick one, I was really excited to meet some of the Amazon logistics team, just hear about some of the new offerings with AGL and AWD, and just kind of draw their brain about like, hey, where is this going? What are some future enhancements that we're looking for, and how could we actually request that your team prioritize these enhancements? So I had some awesome conversations there.
Nick, what about you?
Favorite vendor. There's a lot to choose from. Again, this was like a 5-story convention center, so you really do need 3 days to get all around. Kind of the bottom main story, they called it the Accelerate Pavilion, where the DJ was and all the food and all the vendors, is where we spent probably 75 to 80% of the time. I would say really liked talking to a couple of our ad agencies we use, and then there was a Rising Star booth that had a couple focuses on small businesses and some up and coming stars. So we stopped by there. They were giving out some free samples. We'll probably talk about them more throughout the podcast today, but it was really cool to see, featuring a few actual brands, some giveaways there, and then meeting the Amazon team that helped bring that to life.
Sweet. Taylor, any favorite vendor for you?
I was just kind of laughing here because I was like, dang, Nick kind of took mine, but I really liked, the Rising Star area. We got to meet someone specifically from that department, and they gave us a fun little invite to then that happy hour later that night, which was really fun. We had a good time connecting with people within a smaller group, and just meeting some more other sellers that we became close with.
That was definitely something that was really cool about the conference is, there's all these different, like I said, departments with Amazon or, ad agencies that maybe you've worked with. And it's cool to be able to actually meet some of these people that you may have been communicating with for months or even years online, actually in person. One booth that I had a good time, a good conversation with, and actually we got more content coming with them, is PickFu. So I've been a fan of PickFu lately. I actually heard about them at the Alibaba conference last year. That's when I really kind of got to know them, but I didn't really get a chance to meet with them kind of one-on-one. But this year at their booth, I was able to stop by, meet the two co-founders were both there. So I kind of talked to them, and it was kind of cool to, again, kind of chat with them in person about their tool that I've used, that our agency has used to help clients with. So again, a lot of cool vendors there, a good networking opportunities, and obviously opportunities to learn, get questions answered, stuff like that. There was also some fun activities. I thought, I was telling my students, I did my coaching call yesterday, and I talked about Amazon Accelerate a little bit in there. And I told my students, I said, I was very impressed with just the production of the event. Outside of, just the education or the speakers, but just DJ Mix Master Mike, Beastie Boys, food and everything. What kind of activities? Maybe Taylor, maybe touch on maybe some activities, food, events, things like that stood out to you.
Yeah, I mean, they had so many different fun activities. I mean, there was the friendship bracelet area where you can make a friendship bracelet. And I will say with each of these like areas, they were donating it to a specific place, whether it was a hospital, a funeral home, a dog shelter place. So they had one of the vendors, or I guess people that were there, they would draw a dog for you, your dog for you in like 2 minutes. And it was like so cute because it was like this cute little line drawing. And then I mean, you could make a dog toy. There was flower bouquet making. I mean, they had so many different things of activities you could do. So you can definitely stay busy with everything that they had.
Nick, what about you?
Yeah, for sure. I'll add to that. And it's awesome. They almost set up these areas, like Taylor said, like these hands-on activities as like an icebreaker to meet other sellers. So you can walk up to these areas, get a picture of your dog drawn, and then you talk to other people in line, right? So it's like you kind of have something to do, and it gives you a chance to meet other sellers at the same time. Probably the highlight was the block party. It was hosted by Amaazon. They actually shuttled us all off site. I think some people were jumping on Lime scooters and going downtown Seattle to get there, but they hosted us at close to the Space Needle, that kind of iconic building in Seattle. They had an indoor DJ, outdoor live music, a bunch of food trucks. They had these ladies walking around with fresh Seattle oysters. They would crack them right for you. So great food, some sushi, pizza, cookie dough. So they treated you well, and they gave you spaces to network with sellers, vendors, and most importantly, kind of for us, actually meeting people on the inside at Amaazon. Jake, did I miss any of the fun stuff?
I think you got a lot of the good Amazon stuff. One thing that I didn't know going into the conference is there are kind of these exclusive mini happy hour get-togethers that are post-Amazon sponsored events. So one of my favorite ones was the Rising Star Seller Meetup, and it was kind of like an exclusive invite-only, maybe a couple hundred people at this really nice high-end restaurant right on the Seattle Sound. They had a lot of great hors d'oeuvres, open bar, and it was a great opportunity to just meet people in similar shoes, where it's like you're new on Amazon, it's only a few people in your business, you're just rising, grinding, figuring stuff out on your own. So it was cool to meet some of those like-minded people at the smaller events.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There were some really cool parties. The food trucks, like that block party, I thought, again, was awesome. And like, I know that you guys were going to some other after parties and stuff like that. So definitely from an activity, food, fun perspective, it was surprisingly a really fun event. We talked a little bit about vendors, right? From Amazon, third-party vendors and services companies. But did you guys meet up with any sellers, network with any other sellers there? I'm curious to hear kind of how maybe some of those conversations went.
Totally. Yeah, I can jump in and answer this. It's really like up to you to go say hi to people and meet sellers. So we met a lot of sellers. We tried to give out some business cards and just ask them like, hey, what do you sell? What categories are you in? How long you've been doing it? I think we were surprised at the age levels. I think our age is in like, upper 20s, lower 30s. There was maybe, less in that demographic, but we did find some people our age that were just kind of getting into it, that were actually there in person too. So we met a couple presenters actually, even at one of the happy hours. We're outside waiting for the Uber, and there's some ladies out there that, you go introduce to them, and they're in the dog industry. We met a couple people that were in the baby toy industry. There was a guy in line that we chatted with and swapped information who's selling, at home wall-mounted wooden jungle gyms. So we talked a little bit about using influencers and, what were his strategies? How do we measure things? So definitely met a lot of people. And Taylor, I know we saw a couple cool speakers. We got a couple like little props too. I guess, who else did we meet that you remember?
Yeah, I think with the speakers, it was nice to just kind of hear their story, how they started the business. You kind of can pull away little pearls from each person, no matter how long you've been selling on Amazon for. And so one of them that we went to, they sold candles, and I have one right here. He gave us this cute little mini candle, Hemlock Park. But yeah, it was just interesting to see all the features and the media that he's been with. So that was fun to hear. There's also this cute vendor called Sprinkle Pop. I'm holding up this like plastic bag with some cute little fun, I think she calls them more like luxury sprinkles for cakes, and all of that fun jazz with baking. But yeah, there's so many different fun individuals that we've met. And like I said, you can totally take away like a couple pearls from each one.
I had a really good conversation with a brand owner. Him and his wife are pharmacists, and they started their own supplement brand where they're actually coming up with the supplements themselves. I'm going to try to get them on the podcast. So hopefully in the next few weeks we can get them on there, because I was just extremely impressed with what they had built. It's crazy because you never really know, like even just like kind of talking to someone, right? Like whether you're networking on the floor or some of those video presentations they did in some of the talks where they'd like highlight Sprinkle Pop or other sellers, you never really know like the scale of their success. Like sometimes you just chat and they're like, oh, I sell, pet products or whatever. And then, and then I go home and look it up and I'm like, oh my gosh, they sell $50 million a year. And it's like, dang, I need to work harder. So that perspective to me was like really eye-opening. And also just to hear that like other people are having a lot of the same problems you are. Like I bumped into a bunch of different people, at different booths, and I'm like, okay, like you're struggling with the same issues that I'm struggling with. So whether that you call that comforting or not, I don't know, reassuring that you're not the only one that's having problems, but I thought that was something that was interesting as well.
Yeah, I did get a good chuckle when Martha Stewart made the comment about also feeling the pain of some of the increased fees.
I told my wife that. I was texting her about the Martha Stewart. She was the keynote, by the way. So those of you listening, if you weren't aware, they have like their general session, right? They had 2 general sessions, and it was basically a lot of the different heads of departments at Amazon pitching new products, new launches, things like that. And then they had the keynote that was Martha Stewart. And I was joking with my wife Taylor about how Martha was kind of just doing her own thing up there. She was for the people, like what Jake said. Like, she's like, who do we talk to about these fee increases, like these costs going up, and everyone's cheering. Oh, that was a good time.
It was probably like the most lively the crowd was throughout like the speaking session, which was quite funny. And like we talked to even those Amazon employees, and they're like, yep, she definitely did not stay on script.
Any other takeaways that you guys found maybe from those general sessions that might be interesting for people listening to hear about? Like, I know they talked a lot about supply chain logistics. They talked a lot about AI. Anything, again, that stood out to you guys?
From the general sessions, I think you covered it. The breakout sessions were pretty interesting because we all kind of split up in our own separate ways and targeted something that's within our niche. So for example, I focused a lot of my breakout sessions on global expansion and got to meet a lot of both Amazon employees, different third-party vendors, and other sellers who are going through that same journey. So it was really great to just get those connections, like bounce ideas off of other folks. How do you manage your compliance or global supply chain? So that networking aspect and those breakout sessions were super helpful.
I'm also curious to hear where you guys found the most value from attending the conference. And I'm curious because I actually ran into Mina Elias there at the conference, who's been on my podcast a few times. And he had been to the conference last year. And so I asked him, I was like, Mina, like, where should I be spending my time here? Like, where am I going to get the most value from being here in person? And he told me, he's like, networking with, vendors and Amazon staff, right? Getting as many contacts as possible. But I'm curious, Jake, maybe you could start us off. Where did you find the most value from attending the conference in person?
You nailed it. It's just getting the contacts from kind of the inside, right? We've all gone through the experience where we have an issue, we submit a seller support ticket, it takes 3 weeks to resolve. Just having either contacts who have done something like that before or have a way to actually actionably help you. For example, some contacts within the Amazon SAS program. It was just great to get a few of those people in our contact books.
And I know we kind of talked about this a little bit more earlier on in the episode. Nick, I think it was you actually that was talking about getting a chance to, meet sellers of, new sellers, experienced sellers. We kind of talked about maybe some different interactions, some of those different brands that, were kind of featured there. And I think this is a question that would maybe apply to a lot of people listening who are considering maybe attending in person next year. Nick, do you think that Amazon Accelerate is valuable for brand new beginners, or do you think it's catered more towards experienced sellers?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think the recommendation would actually be for new sellers, they have virtual options that are free. So we did that for the past couple of years when we were just starting up. A lot of our budget in the company was going to launching new products. We couldn't really afford the investment to go to the conference. It's like $500 a ticket plus some travel expenses is roughly what it costs to get out to Seattle. So we did the virtual, and you can attend the general sessions, you can jump in some of the breakout sessions, and we found some value in that. Once we were kind of year 3, 4 in the business, and honestly, just, between your personal life, it's got to work in the calendar, or worked out this year. We got out there. So you'll find it's definitely more experienced sellers that are at the conference, that kind of had the budget to get out there, open to all levels. But like you said earlier, it is mind-boggling to go meet some just regular people and then go look them up later to see what they're doing. Jake mentioned the SAS Amazon program. We had met a couple kind of independent managers that worked for Amazon. We're like, what kind of businesses do you guys work with? Like, how big are they? We've been in business for a couple of years. Should we sign up for this kind of costly program to have some one-on-one coaching? And they're like, yeah, one of my clients is a $100 million lighting company. And we're like, holy cow. And another one was, hey, we manage a $50 million pest control company. And we're like, it's like mind-boggling to be like, wow, there's people that are absolutely crushing it, companies absolutely crushing it on Amazon. So from that, it was motivating too. But that would be recommendations is, as you get bigger, try to get there in person, but there's good virtual options as well.
That's really good advice, actually. In fact, my initial gut reaction to that question was, yeah, I think it was beginner friendly, meaning you could go and if you didn't know anything about what is FBA, you can walk up to the booth and someone will literally walk you through on a laptop. This is what fulfillment by Amazon means. So if you were like, I want to sell stuff, but I have no idea anything about Amazon, I think you could get value, definitely. But I do like your answer in early on, right? You got to think about allocating your budget. And I mean, it's not cheap to go to a conference, especially you got to get on a plane, hotels, all that kind of stuff. And so your budget probably has a little bit more value actually investing into your business itself than maybe going to the conference, especially when there's a virtual option. There is a virtual free option. So as far as getting the information, you can get that all for free. Now, the networking side, obviously you got to be there in person. But I also like too the idea of maybe having a couple years under your belt from that standpoint, because I feel like a lot of the conversations I had too, and you guys, I bet you feel the same way, but really understanding the business model takes those conversations further. I think it's hard to have some of those networking conversations, especially with other sellers, if you can't really speak their language, right? If you're an existing seller and you hey, what's your name, and you meet another seller, you can talk about common challenges, hey, what are you guys doing, But if you're brand new and you haven't launched yet and you're like, hi, nice to meet you. What do you sell? And they're like, I sell this. You're like, well, awesome. I can't relate to you, you can't, you're just not on that same level, right, as a lot of those other people. So I like that. I like that answer of, if you're new, probably check out the virtual. If you haven't done the virtual, at least start there. If you have attended virtually and you're like, no, I want to take it one step further, definitely there's value in attending there in person. Jake, do you know of any other in-person conferences like Amazon Accelerate that you would recommend, or maybe if you've been to any others?
I haven't been. I know a few of the big ones. There's Prosper, Shop Talk, NRF. I think the other one we wanted to get out to this year was the Alibaba Co-Create. And, part of that is one of our goals is we want to meet more of the manufacturers that we work with. We haven't ever made a trip out to China or some of the other OEM sites. And that's something we'd like to do soon. Haven't had a chance to do that yet, but those are some of the other conferences to keep in mind. Maybe if one of those is in a city near you, it could be a cheaper option, so you don't have to pay for the hotel and the flights out there. But I think, Andy, your point earlier, the production value of Accelerate was incredible. It's hard to match just the fun, energetic, the environment there is just so cool. So I've got to recommend the Accelerate one just because we had such a good time there.
I definitely agree with that. And the only other conference that I've actually been to is the Alibaba one. I went to the Alibaba Co-Create conference in Las Vegas last year. I thought about attending again this year, but it's right. They schedule it right around the same time as Accelerate. So trying to, be a little bit more efficient with my time, I didn't go this year, but that is a really good one. That's a really informative conference as well, especially on the sourcing side. So if you're new to sourcing, that's a really good one, especially if, again, you want to source on Alibaba. I've also heard good things about the Prosper Show. That's another one that's kind of been on my radar to consider going to. So yeah, I think those are a couple good options to consider as well if you're looking for some other conferences to go to. Okay, to kind of wrap things up, just everyone, I think this is kind of like, a good final takeaway for the episode. But the question that I've gotten from a couple people, just talking about how I went to this conference in Seattle for Amazon, what is the single biggest takeaway you got from the event? Maybe Taylor, let's start with you.
I feel like the overall theme of this phone call has been like the networking piece has just been so huge for all of us. So truly being able to utilize and get the confidence to go up and talk to other people. I mean, people, once you ask them a question, they just love to chit chat away. So don't be shy to go up to people and network with employees, other sellers. It's so fun to hear what everyone does. Something that, we were struggling with as a business for a while was our packaging. Our hats were being sent in envelopes, and so we wanted to really move over to boxes and make sure they were being sent in boxes. So we made sure to go talk to someone from Amazon and kind of just share some of our feedback with them. And they really said that they prioritize not only the sellers but especially the customers. So if you can get the customers, to put a little word in for you, like, hey, I got the hat in an envelope versus a box and it was smushed, and things like that, they really just take that customer feedback to consideration. So a good little tip that we got.
I love that. Nick, what about you?
I love it. And it's funny because I was actually going to say almost the exact same thing with that. They obsess over the customer, but a couple other little nuggets that were great. We sat in, we listened to Mikey, is a seller. Shout out to Mikey, Hemlock Candles. He actually gave us a tip on Amazon storefronts. And when you're setting it up, he has found a lot of success on, the URL that he got. So if you go on Google and search amazon.com/candles, like the just generic candles, it goes to his Hemlock Park storefront. And when he first tried to get that storefront URL, it locked him out. But he actually picked up the phone, he called Amazon and asked about that URL for his storefront. And they said, oh, this was actually used 10 years ago, but it's expired and we'll give it to you. So he had another seller friend that sold bed sheets. Andy used that as an example a lot, pillowcases and bed sheets. Same thing. They called in, pick up the phone, I guess is really kind of the takeaway here is when you're stuck with a ticket, Amazon said it, all the other sellers said it, pick up the phone, talk to them in person. That's how you'll get it resolved. So that was a good little nugget we learned at the conference.
Jake, what about you?
I think we've touched on it before. The motivation is pretty cool. You come in as kind of like your small little business and you see people who are doing tens, hundreds of millions. I sat on the bus on the way from the conference to the after party with a guy who just exited his company for over $2 billion. And it's like the opportunity, it's ridiculous, right? It's so exciting, it's energizing, it's motivating. So that was kind of, we're doubling down on the networking for this call. It's worth it just for that. It was a ton of fun.
Awesome. My takeaway, man, I feel like there's a lot of takeaways, obviously, and we've touched on a lot of stuff. Me trying to pick one big takeaway from the conference, the word that comes to my mind is expansion. I just felt like a lot of the messages around what Amazon is doing with supply chain logistics, expanding offers to other platforms, expanding different partnerships with TikTok, with Google, with PayPal. And so expansion to me was a big takeaway, a big focus. And Amazon is recognizing, Doug Harrington, the CEO of Worldwide Stores, he mentioned this. Amazon is starting to really recognize and realize that people are not just going to sell on Amazon. Like, you just can't be a single channel strategy if you want to be successful these days. Like, you have to really think about multi-channel, whether that's brick and mortar retail, whether that's Walmart or your Shopify D2C site, using social media to sell TikTok. And so considering that as well for our own brands. I mean, back in 2019, right? When I kind of got started, when you guys around the same time, you could get away with really just being an Amazon brand. And like, that was just the business model. But nowadays it's just that much more difficult. So you really do have to think that much more about expansion. Guys, thank you again so much for taking the time to hop on this episode. Again, I was super stoked to have this opportunity to go with you guys, but also to do an episode where we could kind of all share different thoughts, opinions, takeaways from the conference. Where can the people listening find out more about you guys or Citrusy Boutique? Where can they go to find more?
I always shoot people to our Instagram social media page at Citrusy with the Y, like citrus with the Y, boutique. And then we have, our storefront right in the link in bio. So you can click that, find us on Amazon. We're also on TikTok. So yeah, check us out. Maybe we'll catch you repping a hat.
I know. I need to get one. Gosh, I'm honestly embarrassed. I know. I'm embarrassed that I don't have one yet, honestly. But yeah, guys, go check them out. I'll throw a link here in the description for you guys so you can find them. Again, they've got awesome products, great products for everyone. But they're a great example as well as like how to create really good, awesome social media content, great branding, all that kind of stuff as well. So guys, I'm sure we'll talk again soon. I look forward to continuing our friendship, but thanks again for stopping by the podcast.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy.